Hey everybody! Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Year I Made It podcast. My name is Madison, and I am so excited for this episode to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, as it is something that I have struggled with for pretty much all 30 years of my life. So, on today's episode, I want to share with you guys a little bit about seeking validation, insecurities, and how a lot of times we seek validation because of our insecurities. I'm going to share with you guys how I've learned that I seek validation through insecurity, and also some ways that I have learned to embrace my own life rather than being able to try to live up to other people's dreams, wishes, or expectations of me. So it has been a long journey, but I am here to tell you guys about it. So I wanted to really start by talking about why I chose this topic. So I have always struggled with feeling like I need validation from the world, from other people, from something external. And if there's one thing about self-love, happiness, all of that good stuff, you can never have it and you can never be happy truly if you're always looking for that validation externally. If you're always looking for somebody to show up and tell you that you're enough or show you that you're enough, then you're probably never going to have your needs met in the way that you're looking for. And instead, you really have to learn to just accept yourself, be confident in your life, your story, and realize that you don't always need validation from others. So I have always struggled with this as far as maybe getting caught up in other people's ideals of what success looks like, or other people's ideals of what I should be doing with my life, or what success looks like, and in really a lot of different ways. And so I grew up in a family where my father had a very successful career, definitely always something I always admired about him. I've always been very into like business, having a job, having a career. I've always loved to work. And so growing up, my dad had a career as an attorney. And so I think that this is something that it's just so interesting how the things like this manifest. And so I can remember when I was growing up, and my dad always wanted either me or my sister to become an attorney as well, so we could have a father-daughter law firm. For real, this was like his wish, right? Me and my sister, we're not ever going to be lawyers. Like, we're just not our thing. It's not for us, you know. So I go to college and I'm like, Dad, for sure I'm not gonna go to law school, but I'm definitely gonna get a psychology degree. And he was like, you gotta at least take one political science class. You'll love it. You'll decide you want to be a lawyer. So I'm like, fine. Take one political science class. I get a D plus. It's the only time I've ever gotten, honestly, maybe even below like a C ever. Like, only D I ever got ever in this class. So then I have to go back and be like, Dad. So the thing is, I got an A plus in psychology and I got a D minus in political science. So I'm gonna stick with the psychology. So of course, that's what I ended up doing. But it's so funny because I think that from my dad's standpoint, he always saw it as, I think a lot of times if you're a parent, you're trying to give your kids like the advice that you wish somebody had given to you. And so he's like, man, I was able to make, this successful living, have this career that I'm really fulfilled by in this area. And so, if I could give you, something that I wish I had, this is what it would be. And so it's so funny because I think that everybody can relate to that in some sense, that everybody has some dream that was their mom's dream, their grandpa's dream, their sister's dream, their cousin's dream, whatever that they felt like they had to adapt to, or maybe felt like, in this scenario, I never felt like I had to adapt to that dream because I've always been pretty strong-willed, but I did felt like I almost had to justify like why that wasn't a fit for me. And so I think that that's a way that it manifests for a lot of people, is maybe just being able to feel like you have to justify or validate, like, nope, I actually feel like a little bit different and I actually want to do something a little bit differently. But a lot of times the other person's coming from a place of really good intent. It just might not be something that's aligned for you. So I think that a lot of times we also change or minimize our dreams based upon who are around. And so by that I mean, if I was talking about this podcast to somebody who I did not think was interested in mental health or any of the things I was talking about on this podcast, I might be inclined to maybe minimize it. Like, oh yeah, I'm working on like a little podcast project, that I do a couple times a week, versus if I was talking to somebody that I'm really, open and vulnerable with, I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm having this great time working on this podcast project that I've been doing. And so I think a lot of times as well, we kind of change or minimize how we feel about things or what we're going to portray to people based on how we think they're going to respond. And if we think that what we're going to be telling them fits into their bubble of what we think we should be or whatever that looks like. And so I really want to encourage you to not do that, to not feel like you have to minimize your dreams for other people, to not feel like you have to justify why you have a different dream to other people, and instead just be able to live in your truth. Because I think intuitively we all really know, hey, this is what I'm called to be here to do, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I love. And then somewhere along the lines we just get so caught up in what other people want from us or what other people think we should be doing that we kind of lose sight of that. And then sometimes we have to kind of stop, rein ourselves back in, and really find out what's truly aligned with what we want to do and where we want to be, and not what other people's ideals of what that should be is. So I want to start ending these babies with a quote from Pinterest, because one, I love Pinterest. Two, I have a whole Pinterest board that is literally just mental health quotes, which I love. So the quote I wanted to kind of tie into this episode, where I was really focused on seeking validation and generally seeking validation from a place of insecurity, is the quote that you are responsible for how long you let what hurt you haunt you. So I think a lot of times the reason that we seek validation is that we want somebody to make up for something that happened to us in our life, or validate something that we don't believe in ourselves. But really, you're able to decide when you want to transition out of that stage. You're able to say, hey, this is an insecurity I had or a place that I needed validation, but instead I'm going to be confident in my story, and I'm not going to let this perception of what I think other people want from me or what I think other people need impact me or my story or what I'm going to do with my life. So that is really just the Pinterest quote that really kind of resonated with me for this episode. So I wanted to end by going through some tips for some things that I have started to do to seek validation from others less, and some things that have helped me. So I would say the first tip is finding out what your dream is and what life you want. So whenever I was divorced, whenever I was married, I did a lot of compromising. So then whenever I got divorced, I was like, holy shit, I can literally have whatever life I want. And then once I started to kind of slowly peel back the layers and realize like a lot of this life that I had, I didn't actually want. I kind of did because I thought that it would make somebody else happy. And instead, I don't have to do that. I can literally say, this is the life that I want, and figure out what that is one day at a time and one step at a time. So that's been really cool for me. I also want to reiterate that you can have whatever life you want and whatever life fits you, not the life that you think you have to be happy, to please others, to be celebrated by others. You can just be authentically yourself, and the people that are meant to be with you will be there, and the people that maybe only liked you if you were doing kind of what they wanted will see themselves out. My next tip is always be authentic. So I think one thing that's super important about being authentic is also being confident in your story and being confident that your authentic self is not going to fit with everybody else that you're going to come into contact with, and that's perfectly fine. I always love the saying, stop trying to be liked by everybody, you don't even like everybody. And I always think that's such a good one that always resonates with me, because sometimes I find myself like seeking validation from people that I don't even like. Like, why do I want validation from so-and-so that I don't even like anyways? Like, why do I want that? Insecurity. And so I think that if you learn to be authentic and be true to yourself, that starts to go away slowly but surely. All right, so my last tip is to always remember that you and your dream life aren't for everybody, and that's okay. Everybody has different careers, interests, thoughts, patterns, ways of doing life, ways of doing business, ways they interact. And I think the more that you're true to yourself and your path, the more you'll start to probably get rid of the people that aren't on that path and that journey, and then just start to attract the ones that are. And so that's definitely a journey that I've been on, which has been super cool because I've really found now that people in my life are just super in line with my life, my values, what I want to be doing, seeing, being, what I want to be talking about, what sort of experiences I want to have. And so that's been really cool to watch unfold. It has not happened quickly, but it has happened, and I'm super proud of that. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode on seeking validation, why you're always seeking validation, how to stop seeking validation and be more secure in yourself instead. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys have any tips and tricks for how you have stopped seeking validation, please drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what things you guys are doing. And if you have somebody that you think would benefit from hearing this episode, please share with them. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, happy healing, babes.